Everybody got quiet. Really quiet. All of a sudden, that's pretty good. Everybody's waiting for the picture to happen in the back, you know. Oh, okay. I was going to say, Rex stood up with his camera and everybody went, shh. And then Rex took his picture.
Thank you, Rex.
Here we go again. There we go. Our speaker today for seminar is Rodrigo. And everybody knows Rodrigo because he's worked in almost every group here, and it's been fantastic to have him here as a visiting scientist. Rodrigo got his DVM in 2004, right? And your MS in 2006, and your PhD in 2010, and he's here as a visiting scientist. And we've been really looking forward to his seminar, and he's going to talk about Brazilian agriculture and predominantly Brazilian feedlots. Is that correct?
Yes.
I understand that. But what I know most about Rodrigo is his smile. That's one. Two, his incredible work ethic. And three, his enthusiastic attitude that permeates every place he is and everything he works at. So we're looking forward to hearing your seminar.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kendall. Oh, now I can go home. No, but thank you again. Thank you for attending my presentation today. It's a pleasure for me to talk about some points about Brazil for everyone. My presentation is livestock production, feedlot industry, and some research results in Brazil. So, Brazil is located in the intertropical zone, and maybe 95% of the whole country is located in the intertropical zone. Just one state, Rio Grande do Sul, is not located in this place, but it's very interesting. We understand what's the reason. For example, what does it mean to be a tropical country? If you want to spend one vacation, so for Florida, you can understand a little bit because Florida is placed in the same intertropical zone. And another question, very important, what is the importance of its location in livestock production? I hope in the next 4 or 5 slides, you can understand a little bit about this. So, maybe 65% of the whole country, it's a region, good potential for modern agriculture. In special 3 or 4 states, it's placed in the semi-arid, but many states have a good potential for agriculture. In special, Amazon state is not significantly in terms of agriculture, but currently incentive from Brazilian government to subsidize agriculture is going well, and many people start planting some crops and start livestock production. For to understand a little more, I was talking about climate. Now I will talk about size. Brazil is a huge country, 80.5 millions, or 12 times the size of Texas. So it's a huge country. Cities, lakes, river, and roads, it's 2.4%. The Amazon forest, almost 50%, 41%, the whole country. Pasture, 25.9%. This is very important for us because during the whole life of the animal expend many time in the pasture. Protect areas 6.5 like national parks, annual agriculture 6.4, permanent agriculture 1.9, annual agriculture like corn, soybean, and permanent agriculture, for example, coffee and orange. So both represent just 7.3% the whole country. Cultivate forests like wood forests, less than 1%, And this is very important for us. Unused area with potential for agriculture. 17% is a huge area, huge land. USDA last year published this article, record Brazilian agriculture production exports for their export gains. In 2001, Brazil exported $16 billion, but 10 years after, the Brazil increased 400% and export $80 billion. So the rapid rise in exports is a result of production gains brought about higher yields, for example, rapid abductions of biotech seeds cultivar, and greater abductions of fertilizer use. And, how was told, new areas under cultivate. Brazil has 17%, the whole country. That's the reason for this increase in terms of export. Another graphic about commodities. The USDA project crop and meat production growth from Brazil and USDA, one project for 2020, 2024, and for example, cotton, Brazil is increasing maybe 35% in compared to US in terms of cotton, meat, for example, beef, almost 25%, soybean, 25% too. So based on US baseline projects, the average growth of the next decade for the commodities is nearly 27% in Brazil compared to 8% of the United States. On the top 10 beef production countries, Brazil holds 20% of market, just behind US with 25%. However, this is very important to understand this in terms of cattle numbers. Brazil have 49 billion animals in compared to US. 2 points very important in this topic. US is very efficient for produce meat. But Brazil have a lot of animals, so Brazil can improve a lot. Behind Brazil, Europe with 17%, China 12%, Argentina with 6%. Another point important, some states, for example, Mato Grosso, in the middle of the country, Mato Grosso do Sul and Goiás, we can have 2 crops are harvested annually. That's the reason. The guys can plant soybean, for example, in October, harvest in February, and plant in the same time sorghum, for example, or millet. This is very nice. So traditionally, meat production is concentrated in the same state. Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, and one place, the São Paulo state. And because this abundant supply of grain, oil seeds, cotton seed mills, and animals, it's very easy to have feedlot in this state, especially this state. And this graph can explain better this. For example, Goiás, in the middle of the country, my family lives in Goiás state, 37% of the whole feedlots is in Goiás state. São Paulo state, 26%. Lígia is from São Paulo state. Mato Grosso, 18%. Mato Grosso do Sul, 12%. And unfortunately, Roberta is from Minas Gerais. Roberta, maybe Minas Gerais, just swine and goat, but
Milk.
milk too. 6%. So, areas of increase in grain production currently. Unfortunately, we can see, but these states are close to the coast. I will tell for you, I can show you. 1 minute. Oh, I cannot. But I cannot drive because I'm not an artist, but some states in the coast, Maranhão, Piauí, Bahia, these states are close to the coast and close to the ports, and land is generally priced lower than states in the middle of the country. So just to the dry climate, I'll show you in the first slide, semi-arid climate. Typically only crop is harvested in each year, but the production is going up. I think in the next years, the guys can produce a lot. But however, Brazil have problems, challenges from production and export. Sometimes, for example, this is USDA data again. For soybean transport costs to Shanghai, China, Brazil versus US, the soybean produced in Mato Grosso State in Brazil or Iowa in US, for produced soybean meal, the guys expend $36, $38 in compared to Iowa, $44. However, freight to port, Brazil expend $125 in compared to US, $38. That's the reason for Brazil need to change this scenario, organize highways, and this is very important for us now. And for example, some states in Brazil, we have good highways. I will live in here now. When I go back to Brazil in São Paulo state, I think I will miss Fargo. But in other states, we have this scenario. This is bad. Some states like Mato Grosso do Sul, the guys produce a lot soybean, but we have problems. And sometimes potholes, roads.
Like in
Goiás too, yeah. Many trucks, many roads in the middle of the country, and spoiled commodities sometimes. For example, these pictures is in São Paulo. Look at this sugar cane. Some roads in the middle of the state. In our country, we can have problem about this, unfortunately. Now move to farm again. In 2010, according to annual packing last year, almost 90% of the 40 million cattle slaughtered in Brazil were feed on pasture. And only 4 million animals slaughtered in Brazil were fed in feedlot in 2010. Another point for understand, at least 7% of all Brazilian animals are Bos Indicus or crossbreeds Bos Indicus. So the livestock production systems in Brazil influenced by 2 seasons during the year. We don't have 4 seasons different. We can distinguish 4 different seasons in Brazil, just dry season or wet season. So for example, during the dry season, during the maybe 6 months, we don't have rain and shortage of forage, or during the wet season, we have a lot of rain and abundant forage. So it's very important to understand these 2 seasons, because during our animal life, the animal will have problems about the forage, for example. So animal performance is always dependent to the pasture growth. The animal's growth curve is like a step up during the life. For example, in terms of Nelore steers, it's very common during the calf growth, animals weaning age average 7 months with 230 kilograms, or heifers weaning the same months but with 180 kilograms. And calf price in São Paulo state, this value is, I looked this week just for understand a little bit about market. Nelore steers today is $400 for buy one steers or sell. Heifers $290. Or if you wanna buy one Angus Nelore crossbreed, it's a little expensive in compared to Nelore. One steer with $480, or heifers $360. However, the Angus Nelore cross is a great option in Brazil. Good for seller, good for buyer. However, feed restriction in quality or quantity during the calf growth or the background can negatively impact the investment. Because, I can explain this because crossbreed Nelore Angus have energy requirement or protein requirement higher than Nelore pure. That's the reason. Nelore can live with restriction feed sometimes, but crossbreed no. So the background, move to the background now. The background periods varies a lot, and it's very dependent on producer feed strategy. For example, it's very common producers have 3 months or more than 13 months in a farm about background. And just for to understand more about the length of background period, for example, in US the background is like 3 months to 6 months. This represents for us maybe 7.6 our animals in Brazil. It's very common, for example, 46.3% higher than 13 months on background period. 38.7 between 10 to 1 year. It's a little different. So during the background, the animal passes to dry season, wet season, or dry season again. The lack of good feed strategy during the year can lead to a longer background period. It's very important have some adoption during this period for change this background. So during the wet season, starting in October, finishing March, chemical composition of pasture. In this time, pasture have 9 to 14%, but if you put nitrogen in a pasture, it's depending how you use this nitrogen, you can increase for 18, sometimes 20% crude protein. In terms of fiber, NADF 6 to 65%, energy 58 to 63, and 15 tons dry matter of pasture for hectares. It's a lot. When one animal is placed in a wet season again, the wet season is high, the animal can improve the average daily gain and have lower cost because the animal can enjoy the pasture and it's improve your performance. During the wet season, almost all animals can express compensatory gain because before one wet season, the animal sometimes lose gain, and sometimes it's very common to express compensatory gain, or in this period, or when start the feedlot period. So in terms of supplementation strategy during the wet season, it's very common, I think it's appropriate, use just mineral supplement. Least expensive and is more productive. Animal performance is less responsive to protein and energy supplementation. Some people in Brazil start some studies about energy and protein supplementation during this period, but the results is not good. Sometimes producers have less return on investment because the animal can not eat pasture but eat a lot of supplement. This is not a good return. In terms of mean goal, take advantage of plentiful forage and supplement macro and macro minerals is average 80 to 120 grams per animal per day during this season. Now just for show some bunks for use minerals in different farms, huge farms for example. And during the dry season, this is very important for us because this can change the curve, growth curve, and we can be longer the background and have problem with during the feedlot period. So during the dry season, slow average daily gain or weight loss and higher cost of maintenance. So it's very important to decide which supplement strategy is better for change this and try have a little more average daily gain. During the wet season, one pasture have like 14% crude protein. Now during the dry season, April to September, the pastures, the crude protein is going down 4 to 8%. In terms of fiber, 65 to 76%. Energy is going down 48 to 55%. And production is almost 0 ton of dry matter to pasture because the pasture is dormant, don't grow more. The light and the lake of rain, the pasture don't grow. And now, just to understand a little bit, during the dry season, in terms of supplementation strategy, the main goal in this season is appropriate use protein supplementation to promote light gains or at least to maintain weight. So least cost supplementation to prepare the animal for the next wet season or feedlot. And it's very important producer have abundant pasture residue because the pasture will offer carbohydrate for the animal and you can offer protein supplementation and the animal can increase the microbial protein season in the rumen. Now one example for supplementation during the dry season is very common, use mineral plus urea, and one example with one steer with 306 kilograms of body weight. The intake is almost average 100 grams per animal per day. One formulation with 30% urea, 6% mineral, and grain sources 10%. Grain source because urea is not palatability, don't have a good palatability. And mineral, you can regulate the intake, and especially when you offer sodium chloride. Permanent performance with available forage in the farm, just for maintenance or minimize weight loss. So if you make this, one animal can have 50 grams per day. During the one season or 6 months, the animal will have 9, 10 kilograms in 6 months. So the animal is just for maintenance. Protein supplementation, another strategy. The same animal, the same weight, body weight. Intake of supplement is a little different, 0.1% of body weight. So one animal will ingest 306 grams per day. One formulation is like a protein source 15 to 40%, energy sources 20 to 30%, urea not 30% but 5 or 12%, chloride 15 to 25%. Again, this is very important for regulate the intake, and mineral 8 to 10%. And the performance, if you have available forage, you can increase the average daily gain for 100 300 grams, 1.1.3 kilograms per animal per day. Now, I make one math because sometimes in our university we don't need to worry about cost, but for farmers it's very important. Supplementation cost in both wet season and dry season. One mineral in Brazil currently in dollars, 1 kilogram it's $5.8, 0.59 for mineral plus urea during the dry season, or 0.58 during the dry season for protein supplement. The intake, 100 for mineral supplement, 100 grams for mineral plus urea during the dry season, or 350 grams during the dry season for protein supplement. The cost change a little bit, 0.05, 0.05, and 0.2, but the average they again, if you get this chemical composition and put the NRC will estimate 400 grams per day in one animal during the wet season, 50 grams per day if you use one mineral plus urea, or 200 grams in the dry season when you offer protein supplement. So the cost to gain 1 kilogram of body weight during the wet season, one producer can expend $0.15 during the wet season. During the dry season, $1.19, and with protein supplement, 1.03. So the supplementation cost to gain 1 kilogram of body weight in the wet season is much less compared to the dry season. That's the reason for people in Brazil explore a lot during the wet season. Now I will talk about heifers, because heifers in Brazil is not commonplace in a feedlot. The animals, the guys in Brazil harvest animals in a pasture. So Nelore heifers in pasture will be harvested in Brazil with average 380 kilograms of body weight. In Brazil, it's very common to use this symbol. One arroba in Brazil is equal to 30 kilograms of body weight. So if you want to know what price for sell one animal, you can look in the internet. One arroba is currently $52.2. So one animal with 380 kilograms of body weight, it's like 12.5 arrobas. And these heifers will harvest with 26 months old and approximately 3 to 6 millimeters of back fat. However, in the same condition, the same pasture, if you have Angus Nelore, for example, crossbreed heifers in pasture, you'll be harvest these animals with average the same weight, the same back fat, but I will reduce 6 months in the same condition, just because I have one crossbreed. But not in Nelore, but in crossbreed, Angus Nelore is very common. Some producers start on feedlot in less than 408 days age and finish one animal, now the same weight again, but not 3 to 8, but 6 to 10 millimeters of back fat, and reduce more, like 10 months. So heifers price in São Paulo State, Nelore heifers $6.610, and the Angus Nelore heifers the same price. In Brazil, the only difference you can have one reduction of 6 to 10 months. Unfortunately, in Brazil, the producers don't receive more for have one crossbreed or one good back fat in a carcass, but I think the next years Brazil can develop one quality grade and change this. I hope if you want to produce, have one animal crossbreed, for example, he need receive more for this. Now, in terms of feedlot period, it's very common one animal are placed in feedlot with average of 12.5 to 14 arrobas, or 380 to 420 kilograms of body weight. And how does the price of finished cattle fluctuate in Brazil? During the January to June, the cattle prices are lower because due to the high number of finished cattle finished on pasture. I don't know, but if you remember, the rain starting in October, so November to February, March, we have good pastures in Brazil. So many animals is finished, is harvested in this week, in this season. However, during the August and December, the cattle prices are higher just because number of finish is lower, because just only 9 or 10% all animals in Brazil is slaughtered come from feedlot. Now it's very different if compared to US. Does Brazil castrate its animals? No. 73% is not castrated, all animals. Just 25% the animals when harvest is castrated. And the age of castration, US use between 0 or 7 months for castrate an animal. This represents for us 2.4% only. 86.6%, the all animals is between 18 to 24 months. It's very easy to understand this because 9% of all animals is finished in pasture. So in pasture, the animal can receive one energy for put fat in a carcass. The energy is lower. So it's very common they produce castrate animals in this age, and more 6 months after, 8 months after, the animal can change a little bit the body composition and the carcass composition. Feedlot facility type, covered or open pens, 95.5%. All feedlots in Brazil is open pen, like this. This feedlot, for example, represent just cover over the bunk pen, just 1.2. This is very expensive for us. Sometimes people make this just for people use feedlot during the all year, but it's very common use feedlot just the dry season. So the people don't need cover and don't like expend too much money in terms of facility. This is a typical feedlot in Brazil. It's a little white, just Nelore cattle. Sometimes you can see crossbreed or Angus pure, but it's very common, just Nelore. And the typical diet for feedlot cattle in Brazil is average 13% of crude protein. Sometimes some consultants offer during the first month diets with 15-14% crude protein, because the first month some animals can express compensatory gain. So if you offer a little more protein, crude protein, you can have a good result. But average 13% crude protein, 6% ether extract, 7% ash, and 74% carbohydrate. And how Brazilia's feedlot industry utilize whole face stores. Both data comes from Journal of Animal Science. According to Vasconcelos and Galian, the level of inclusion of forage in Brazilian feedlot diets is like 90% dry matter, and just corn, silage, and alfalfa hay. But Brazil use a little bit more, almost 30% the forage, and many different forages is available, like sugarcane, corn silage, sugarcane bagasse. These are byproducts from sugarcane, sorghum silage, and many byproducts. The reason for this number is compared with grains, the fiber source is low price in terms of costs per unit of the TBN. That's the reason for using more forage. The primary sources of grain in feedlot, according to Junior et al., corn is the most important, 76%, and sorghum, 21%. And this data, I think, comes from south of Brazil, because in the middle of the country, it's not common. You have oats for offer for animals. And in terms of byproducts, look, we have many different byproducts. You have on balance, for example, soybean meal, 19%, wool cotton seed, 18%, citrus pulp, 16%. It's very common in São Paulo state, for example. Soybean hulls, 15%, cotton cake, 10%, corn gluten feed, 6%, and others like barley, sunflower, bakery weights represent the last 17%. In terms of primary source of whole face for Brazilian beef cattle, the most important for us is corn silage, 40%. The second forage used for feedlot owners is sugarcane bagasse, 27%. This is a good byproduct for use in high concentrate diets. Sorghum silage, 12%. Grass silage, 11%. Sugarcane fresh or chopped, 6%, just only 6%. I believe this sugarcane fresh and chopped is just for a small feedlot, because it's very difficult. Every day, one employee harvests the sugarcane, chop it, and offer for animal. I believe is feedlot less than 800 animals. It's common, but higher than this is not appropriate. Sugarcane silage 2%, and millet silage 2% too. So, for finish, my idea is steers are finished in feedlot with average of 15 to 18 arrobas, or 500 to 509 kilograms of body weight. It's almost the same in US, but it's very common. Nelore cattle, for example, have higher than 3 millimeters of back fat. I told for you, in Brazil we don't have one quality grade for separate different carcass, but if one animal have more than 3 millimeters, it's okay, it's not a problem. But in compared to US, it's a little different, and I like this. I have one reduction of 9.5 months, and the animals is a little heavier in compared to the average in Brazil. And difference in carcass, for example, Nelore is not common, have marbling, and the back fat is smaller than one good Angus. This is difference in terms of breed. So for steer price in São Paulo state, for sell one animal for the slaughterhouse, for example, steer with 6.5 arrobas is like $861.3 currently. summary, Brazil crop and livestock production continues to expand, building on rapid gains over the past few decades. However, Brazil faced several challenges to both production and export gains, poor agriculture, transport, logistics, and Brazil needs to reduce the background time. Despite these challenges, Brazil still has room to further expansion. And I would like to say thank you for this cute couple, Carl and Roberta. I would like to say thank you, Carl and Roberta. This guy is very important for me, and Kendall, Greg, the BRC team, Trent Gilbert and Alfonso Willis, and entire animal science department at NDSU. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. And thank you again. Questions?
So it's time for questions. Greg?
Rodrigo, what type of forage, when you have the cattle on pasture, is it an improved forage? Is it native forage to Brazil?
Yeah, I think 10 years ago, many producers used native pastures, but the last 10 years, we have good pastures, like Brachiaria, Sampenicum, Colonião, Mombasa. These pastures have a good crude protein. You can have one produce very nice. So I think this changed for the last 10 years, but for many time the producers use native pastures.
Mark?
So why do they take the cattle through the second dry period? Why don't they just put them in the feedlot right away, since that's so costly to feed them during that dry period?
Yeah, it's very common in Brazil, one feedlot with 7 days or 100 days. It's very expensive have feedlot in Brazil. For example, the last 2 years, 3 years, the most difficult for us is buy one animal. The last 6 years, many people in Brazil harvest heifers and cows. So the last 4 or 5 years, it's very difficult you buy one animal. In terms of demand and the animals, for example. For this reason, many people don't like expend more than 100 days in a feedlot. Of course, it's a little complicated to understand this because you can feed, if you harvest one animal before, if you reduce 6-10 months, it's better. But the guys like use pasture, and it's better put on animal for one dry season or one wet season, and the next dry season put in a feedlot. Just so, it's a little weird, but many people in Brazil use feedlot for 45 days, 50 days, and finish one animal, not castrate.
We had a question back over here, and then we'll come over here to you, Carl.
I actually have two.
Okay. That's okay.
Sort of two comments maybe, but I think when you're comparing the supplementation during the dry period, my thinking is that first dry period is going to be the most important.
Exactly.
And I think it's going to potentially set up for the wet period. We know that you can program growth, you know, at one point in time by nutrition and food, so that it programs the response later. So I think it's going to be important to look not just at the cost of the supplementation and not just at the gains, but the subsequent gains during the wet period. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And second thing, so when we were in Pirassununga, we were fortunate to have a seminar from Professor Bento.
Bento, I know.
And I think, you know, one of the things you didn't mention is that Brazil has made tremendous gains in genetically in the Nelore. And in fact, at least I thought he told us that most of the Nelore in the country now have Bos taurus introgressed.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very common, for example, have one characteristic is very interesting. All Nelore pure it's white and have on letter black. Some Nelore, it's not pure. If you shave one Nelore, the skin is white.
Yeah, sure.
This is one reason, because many Nelore cattle is not pure, have some boss taurus in. But about your first question, I believe this too. It's very important. Some people try to do this, but for example, during the growth calf, when producers have crossbreed, the guys make a good job during the growth calf and offer a good pasture, make offer on creep feeding. After that, put in a pasture and don't make the same thing. So the animal lose gain, and your investment, you can receive this. The most important, I think, you start and finish the same thing. You need to give money for receive after, but many people don't think like this.
Carl?
You talked about castration, they don't castrate. Talk a little bit for the guys about implants, ionophores, and beta agonists in Brazil.
The first, for example, ionophore. Brazil uses a lot of supplementation, and currently many companies use ionophore during the supplementation pass. In special, monenzyme, and I think correct say virginiamycin, yeah. You can improve a little, maybe 2, 3, 4% in terms of feed efficiency. I believe this is a good option. I think if you pay for 0.7 cents dollars, you receive, I think, 0.14, something like this. This is a good idea. In Brazil, it's illegal using plant. All feedlot in Brazil don't use implant. That's the reason for not castrate. I think 15, 18 years ago, it is not illegal. Many people use implants in a pasture, in a feedlot. I remember my father using implant in his animals, but after that, the government stopped this. But I believe in this year, the guys can use again implant. The Brazil will is available now. Yeah. There another question, Carl?
Beta agonists.
Beta agonist. Yeah. No, it's a little complicated. What do you want to talk about? Okay. I believe too, in this year, the guys can use beta agonists like zimpoterol. You can put this product in a ration 3 or 40 days before harvest, and maybe you can change the feed efficiency, but we need to understand a little more this, especially in Brazil, because I showed for everyone the carcass composition in terms of Nelore, for example, is very different. The animal is not easy to put fat in a Nelore steers. If you offer on zipaterol, for example, the animal will put more meat, put more skeletal muscle in compared to fat. I show too the high level is the diet is not too much energy, maybe 40% the forage in a total mixed ration. I think we need to understand a little more this and maybe change the diets a little bit more, or expend more time in a feedlot. I don't know if this is possible, or castrate animals 6 months before placing a feedlot and try changing this carcass composition
And pray for fat.
and receive for fat. That's the reason.
Gotta pray for
Exactly, Roberto. Yeah.
Other questions that we've got? Back here, May.
So how big is the average feedlot in Brazil? Like how many animals can it hold?
Oh, I make this slide. I think I don't have more. But I have some. I remember the 10 the 10 huge feedlot in Brazil. The first is JBS. The last year, the guys harvest 168,000 animals. The first 10, the 10 is like 25,000 animals. But if you go to on a small farm, some people have 300 animals. The owner feed animals every day, harvest 300-400 animals for a year. But it's very interesting. The 10 first, maybe 8 or 7, is come from corporation like GBS and another company. No more owners, private owners.
Any other questions? Okay, Reed.
Can you discuss on the reproduction side of the cow herd? You're talking about the growth of the calves, another way to improve efficiencies, have the cows be more efficient. What's the reproduction rate or longevity of a cow, so on and so forth?
Okay. In terms of reproduction, all year the demand of bulls for breed, for example, Nelore, is huge. If you produce bulls for breed, you are a rich guy in Brazil. And insemination, for example, is not representative. And I think this person, our insemination person, probably 7%, the guys use Angus, for example, or Simmental or Limousin. But it's very difficult. You buy one bull Angus and put in the middle of the country. It's very fun. If you go to the farm in the middle of the country and you can see 200 cows, Nelore, pasture, 3 p.m., very hot, and the bull, the bag for the cows in the tree. So it's a little disappointing to see one Angus in the middle of the country. That's the reason for use Nelore in Brazil. And the guys try use insemination for have crossbreed, but it's a little expensive. That's the reason for expense for buy one crossbreed too.
Okay. Mark, you have another question.
I've got another question. See, there are actually a couple questions. You said that I was intrigued with the supplement that had urea, salt, and a little bit of grain. Salt to limit intake, even though they don't like urea, but a little bit of grain to make them eat it. Do you ever have any cows that actually die from over consuming a little bit of urea there?
Yes. Sometimes this is very easy, but the guys, for us, it's very common now. For example, when you start one supplementation during the dry season, all bags, supplementation bags, have one prescription about this. So, for example, one bag with one protein supplementation, for example, with 40% crude protein. If you have 30% urea, the guys write the first week mix 2 bags with 2 supplement salt.
Oh, okay.
The second week, 2 supplement urea and 1 bag with mineral. The another week you can offer, and during the dry season is not a limit. For example, during the wet season, one employee can offer 3 times a week, because just minerals and sodium chloride, the animal eat 8 or 100 grams, it's okay. But during the wet season, because have grain and supplement, the guys need to offer every day. So it's a simple math. If you have 200 animals and you need to offer 100 grams, the guys need to just offer this. and you need have, before, when you start one dry season, you need share some lot for have this one uniform lot. Animals the same age, the same frame size for you, because I believe when you make this, the intake can be better for our animals.
Maybe time for one more, if there's one more question out there. Okay, let's show our appreciation.